such a cool
Copa do Estado do Brasil. My favorite animal of the Amazon, specifically Brazil, would be the jaguar or jaguar.
Blake Bortles.
Yes.
Jags.
He's no longer there.
What?
It was Nick Foles, I believe, that just got injured.
Yeah, I hate to see it happen.
Yeah, but no, I fucks with the jaguar because I'm a cat guy. I'm a Thundercat, so if you didn't know jaguars, you get Jogga. He's a jaguar portrayed. He was the old, wise, mystical Negro of the Thundercats. He helped Lionel when he needed spiritual guidance. He was like their Morgan Freeman, and now that I said Morgan Freeman has to play Jogga if they ever get to a live action Thundercats movie.
Do you think we're ever going to get that live action?
Oh, we have to. They're running out of too many 80s movies properties, and it's just a moment of time.
That makes sense.
And low key, I wouldn't be mad if Michael Bay came along to do
Really?
that. Because it's already ridiculous.
See, that's weird because
And
Michael Bay was
explosive.
my favorite Amazonian animal.
It's
crazy.
explosive, and there's a lot of sex appeal to it, especially with this furry demographic that's out there now. And Chitara played a part in a lot of our adolescence. It is what
He's
it
not
is.
wrong.
But so I guess I could break that down too. If they do like a live action, let's make it an action type of
Right.
Thundercats, I would definitely go Michael Bay. But they were trying to be more mythical and serious. I always will go with Del Toro.
And this will
I
be
probably
filmed
butchered his
now,
name.
right while the Amazon is on fire.
Oh no, we're going to green stage that.
I say we just
Green
make
screen
the
that.
Thundercats, send them out there. They fix the
Yes.
problem.
Right?
They team up with Captain Planet. It's the crossover we've always wanted.
But for all as we know, they actually do live in the Amazon because so much of that has not been explored.
Boom.
That
Wait till it burns down. We'll find
yes,
it.
we'll find the remains of a snarf.
What about you, Gio?
I'm not really a big fan of snakes, but I'm gonna say the anaconda.
Oh, Jennifer Lopez.
She gives really good hugs. Not Jennifer Lopez, but
Whoa. Wait, we gotta respect that because that's one movie when the black man survived.
He
Ice
made it
Cube
to
did
the
not die in Anaconda.
But for disclaimer, Jennifer Lopez does give some of the best hugs.
I've never had them,
But-
so I don't know.
We can all dream.
It's because Jennifer Lopez and the Anaconda wanted those buns.
Whoa.
Yes.
So the anaconda, why is that?
Well, so as a kid, I would always hear like these stories about just anacondas freaking swallowing giant animals whole, like cows, and I mean, like, dude, my mom used to tell me all these crazy stories, and she swore that one day, like, she was just walking down a freaking field, and there was a giant like anaconda swallowing a cow, like
Just hanging out there in the streets.
I don't know. I can't attest to that. I wasn't there. I wasn't even born yet. But like, she swears up and down that it freaking happened. And I mean, like, these stories are all over Brazil. Like, and I'm sure that it could have happened. But that's fucking amazing, though. Like, you could just literally swallow an entire fucking animal, just crush them, and then swallow them whole. And that's it.
Takes out
That's
the
the
middle
end of
man.
it.
Yeah, there's no leg work there because you're a snake and you don't have legs. These are the issues. Clayton.
So problem with this animal, it doesn't actually have a name yet. It was only discovered 2 years ago.
What?
Yeah.
Jesus, Clayton.
So
This is exciting, right?
so it's a species of spider. It's been discovered 2 places in
It's
the
called a
world.
spider is what it's called. It's a demon.
Yeah, man, it's a
Big
spider.
ass spider.
You're gonna
That's
have
what
to
it
deal
is.
with that, so get out any giblets you
Well, I
got.
mean, the Amazon is burning, so how long is this spider gonna last?
True.
It's a new breed. It's probably the new one. It's the one that's going to
The
kill
fireproof.
Yeah.
The smoke resistant.
It's 8-legged freak. It's not
Yes.
like the size of a car.
It's an
Don't get
arcade.
your hopes up.
That's not huge.
The thing that it does that's amazing, it builds a decoy of itself.
Oh,
it builds a
shit.
spider replica.
It catfishes its prey.
Yeah, it does. So it builds this
like
massive
that.
spider out of like debris and other like dead bugs it's partially eaten and stuff to scare off predators. That's like 4 or 5 times bigger than it is.
Holy shit!
It doesn't even just mold, but it actually pulls together stuff and like
Builds it.
that's
Just
crazy.
clones its stuff
Yeah.
out of. Wow.
If you could name it anything, what would you name it?
I'm not that creative, so probably a decoy spider.
That works.
That's a good name. That is
Yeah,
a
that's
perfect
how-
name for it.
Like they
That's
call
what it
koala
says on the
bears, but they're not bears. So
Right? Yeah, exactly. They're marsupials.
yes,
Right? Yeah.
mostly every marsupial lives in Australia outside of the possum that's only found in North
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
Speaking of Australia, my favorite animal is from the Amazon is a world-traveling jerboa. It's got a lot of those frequent flyer miles and just really wants to see the world before it all burns. So traveled around a lot. And what I like the most about it is it was live, laugh, loving in the world, and then ended up in the Amazon and said, "This is home." This
I
is
don't
home.
even know what a jerboa is.
You said jabroni, not a jabroni, right?
Yeah, what the fuck's a jerboa?
A jabroni
It's
gets the
little-
smackdown laid
it's a
on it
little,
and doesn't know what the rock's
mouse-like
cooking.
creature with little kangaroo legs and a long tail.
So it's not a kangaroo, right?
No, it's a jerboa.
So those are two different things.
I
The
think
kangaroo.
you're just using the slur of gerbil.
Yo,
It's like,
I never thought about that one.
It's like when you call a Sasquatch Chewbacca. You don't do that.
Word.
You can't call.
What about the Sasquatch and the Yeti?
Those are different regions.
Different regions, so same thing, different place.
Same thing, different place.
Word.
All right, everyone. Thank you for
All right.
tuning in and
So
listening
that's
to our
not
bullshit.
that's not a kangaroo mouse, all right?
That's
the
a
jabroni.
jerboa.
All right. See,
I mean-
Kratz Creature and like what I used to watch on
Zaboomafoo
PBS.
didn't teach you about
They didn't
this?
teach me the proper terms, and those are two different.
They're like, this
rodents.
is a thieving little sewer rat with jumpy legs. You're
No,
like,
he's just
"That's
an
right."
orphan. He just happened.
He's
live
trying
in
to go out west.
Real. What about chupacabras? Are those real? And is that Brazil or is that just South America? Or like
So
Mexico?
chupacabra is a goat sucker.
Yes.
Is what that's the literal term.
Yeah, no,
That's what it
great.
comes from. Goat sucker.
Chupacabra.
Yes. I had a cousin who did that once. Kicked in the face, horribly disfigured.
He had to get like.
Chupacabra, though, is a mythical creature much like the Jersey Devil or North Dakota. They don't
Word.
exist.
Or like the alligators that live in the sewers in New York.
No, those are real.
Word. Leatherhead. Yeah, I read about them in Ninja
exactly.
Turtles.
Yeah, come on.
Man.
You got to start distinguishing
Real.
fact and fiction. All
I
right,
know, right?
let's get the show started. Thank you for listening and tuning in. This is the Escaping Podcast.
The best podcast in Colorado Springs when it comes to all things geek, nerdy, and everything in between.
That's right. As always, we're recording at Escape Velocity Comics. Escape Velocity Comics is just nice enough to let us record here. In no way or shape or form do our opinions or ideas reflect that of the store, the crew, the owner's sons, his neighbors, just us being us, people being people. Today, as always, I'm Daniel. We have next to me.
Yours truly, Kills for Show.
That's him.
This is Gio, and today we're going to be talking about something that's pretty near and dear to me, which is Brazil. It's where I'm from. I was born in Brazil and freaking love my country. But anyway, so we're going to be talking about the history of Brazilian democracy. We're going to talk about the current Brazilian administration and the parallels between the Brazilian and U.S. administrations, the Amazon rainforest, current fires, deforestation, as well as comics about the Amazon environment and climate change, which our guest Clayton.
Oh,
Hello,
shit.
Clayton.
There is a Clayton here.
Yes.
How's it
Hey,
going,
what's your
everybody?
name, Clayton?
You'll be surprised to find it's Clayton.
Wow.
Your last name wouldn't happen to be Bixby, would it? 'Cause that would be,
Bixby?
Dave Chappelle. The blind classman.
Clayton Bixby?
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, it's all good, bro. It's all good.
No,
I usually just get the bad guy from Tarzan.
Yeah.
Oh,
Clayton.
word.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of bad guys and killing off, beautiful animals, we're talking about Brazil today
Yes.
and what's going
This
on.
is definitely about to be a more episode, so prepare to be learned.
Clayton has generously agreed to come on. He is not just a good, upstanding citizen, he's also my roommate. And all that implies. Woo.
And I also study biochemistry at the University of Colorado.
That
I'm
is
a
true.
tutor.
Word.
I design curriculums. I'm a researcher. So I'm here to kind of be the science guy
Yes.
on this episode.
He is
So-
our climate change scholar. So
Yes.
listen up.
So
y'all.
would that be the reason that you're so pale? Because you had to come back and listen to all of Daniel's horror stories?
You can't just ask someone why they're white. You can't do it, Kelsey.
It's a lot of reasons. None of them are good.
It's mostly
So technically, I'm
genetics,
right.
but-
Still technically, I'm right.
Technically, you're right, and
Okay.
mostly he's white.
Okay,
so it
there we go.
works.
Word.
Gio, you're taking point on this today. Go ahead and tell us what we're gonna start off with.
Well, basically, we're gonna talk about first and foremost the fires and how that's going to affect us,
It's
not
craziness
just
out
Brazil but globally.
Yes.
And I mean, we look at the Amazon and we always refer to it as the lungs of the earth,
Yeah.
but we look at it like it is the lungs of the earth, but we don't respect it as such.
Sure, but we also don't respect our own lungs. I mean,
You stole the word.
That's true.
Yes.
That's absolutely
you
true.
can say it's a temple, it's a representation of the human body, but we fuck our bodies up every day, dude.
Absolutely.
And being it from Colorado, you already know what that's about. So you laugh because you got Colorado lungs. That's where you're laughing.
All right, so let's get into it, guys. The Amazon is burning. Initial reactions: the Amazon is on fire.
For fuck's sake!
That's what I'm saying.
And it's fucking
And
crazy.
we're not doing shit about it.
And it was
I
on
mean,
fire for like what?
We're not doing anything.
Yes, it was on fire for like what 3 weeks until it made
right.
like U.S. news.
Yeah.
And Gio, that's not fair to say. We're sharing memes about it. We're bitching about it on Facebook. Isn't that enough?
No, you're right. You know what? That's plenty, dude.
Isn't that how you
That
enact
is gonna
change?
combat all the fires out
Yeah,
there.
hearts and minds.
Yes,
Dude.
right. That's
Thoughts and
prayers.
one.
Exactly.
Fuck me.
So then, what's a good way that you guys would say to go about fighting this? Do we fly out there and help these people and get shot, or is there another way to go about this?
Well, I mean, the obvious way is, the government.
Yes.
It's like, what are they going to do about it? And obviously, we know what's going on currently in the administration.
We know about as much as we can.
So, well, then let's get into it.
Yeah, what kind of government are we looking at in Brazil?
Well, it sure as hell isn't a democracy.
I mean, it has the face of a democracy, but the body of a centaur, the teeth of an alligator, and the feet of a Argentinian. So that's weird.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Nothing.
It's one of those. I'm pretty sure that's a creature from Revelations, the book in the Bible.
There's a lot of creatures in that book. I don't know how every episode we get back to that book, but yo,
We're gonna
I'm pretty
have to
sure
do a Bible episode.
it's like a
at some
leopard.
point.
Oh, I'm not.
You do not want to do that.
It's gonna be great.
It could be cool. It could be fun, but that's for another topic.
So the government in Brazil,
Right, so-
it says it's democracy, but what are we really looking at here?
Well, you know what? How about we go through the entire timeline of the history of democracy
Start
in
at
Brazil?
the very beginning. So before there was kind of a democracy, but then in 1964, right?
Well, I mean, yes and no. Brazil has never actually had a democracy because when it was first colonized by the Portuguese, there were emperors, there were just all the royal
Okay.
families. So until Brazil gained the independence from Portugal, it finally decided, all right, let's create some sort of democracy.
Right.
And then they created the constitution. They figured out a government. But what happened in that government?
Oh, of course. Well, it was around 1964. The coup d'état happened, and that's
a
when.
Copa do Estado do Brasil.
God bless you. And that's when everything kind of goes from passable to gas station burrito shitty.
Exactly. That's, I mean,
With
putting it nicely.
Putting it as nicely as I can. At that point, they fall into a military dictatorship. And I forget who the president was at the time. Zhao. I'm going to butcher these names today. It's just going to be bad.
Goulart.
Yeah.
Goulart.
Hey, yeah.
João Goulart. João Goulart.
Okay. We're all learning today.
Yeah, we are, and that sounds.
So
pretty
he was
tasty.
the president at the time that they were going against, right?
Yes, that's right. That's
So
right.
what was his stance before they kind of took over?
Well, he was never really about the people.
Oh, so it was more of a front.
Yeah, no, it really was. Like, even though he said, his whole premise was, and I'll help Brazil. I will fix all of our problems. It was never about that.
Okay,
It was just like any other politician. They put up a front. They get elected.
Offer with one hand, stab in the back with the
And
other.
then, exactly.
So this lasted for about 21 years. Almost.
21 years.
That's kind of a crazy amount of time.
Yeah.
And there were pledges initially to say, hey, no, we're not doing this. But
Right.
they were quickly shouted down, which is the real face of all this. The people have the idea of having a voice, but then they're quickly silenced.
Yeah.
And, it's easy for us to look at and say, we don't have that here. But we really...
Right. And
we're getting close.
during the dictatorship and the military regime in Brazil, I mean, people really didn't have a voice. They
Right.
weren't allowed to do anything. They weren't allowed to, just express themselves as individuals through their music, through their art. They were censored at every step of the way. Whatever they wanted to do had to be regulated by the government. You know, and it fell into certain categories where they had to abide by these laws, they had to abide by the regime. You know, they couldn't just speak freely of the government. Like,
oh yeah, they were getting detained, they were getting tortured,
they were getting killed. There were protesters all over the streets for years.
Yeah,
and you know, and I mean, there were like mass murders, literally people by the thousands or. Okay, not by the thousands, but the hundreds every day, which amounted to thousands a month.
Exactly. The numbers were something like 50,000 detained, 10,000 forced into exile, something nearing about 1,000 were actually killed while they were tortured.
Yeah. And Dilma Rousseff was one of them. She was actually captured and tortured while she was protesting the government. And
she still went on to become president. But looking at those numbers, that's a lot of people going through torture.
Yeah.
It's almost as many people went to go see Batman versus Superman. And I don't know.
Terrorists today are not even getting tortured like those actual citizens were.
Not at all.
Just because they wanted
citizens
to be treated better by their government.
Exactly. They tried. You know?
Yes, they tried. Like, hey, that's fucked up.
And they had they thought they had a voice, but that voice was quickly shot down.
Right.
Yes.
And it wasn't until the U.S. actually intervened, and this was by the Kennedy administration and then Johnson. They figured out a plan where they were going to go in and just wipe out the entire dictatorship. Which
because America always comes to save the day, we ride in like John Wayne on a little ass and
create the problems, and then we try to fix them.
I mean, but isn't that the best way to do it? What was that Jake Gyllenhaal movie? Not Brokeback Mountain. Nightcrawler.
Oh, I thought you was talking about the time travel one.
What?
But it wasn't really time travel.
No, Nightcrawler.
No, the other one when he was on the
Source
train.
Code.
Yes, Source Code.
No, I'm talking about Nightcrawler. He's an award-winning journalist, but then you find out he's causing the fires, and he's the one going in there putting out the fires.
Homelander-ish.
Yes, Homelander-ish for sure.
Word.
1967, they revised the Constitution. It was a new Constitution, and this one adopted nationalism, economic development, and anti-communism as its guidelines.
Right.
So instead of being a constitution for the people, it quickly turned into a constitution for those in power. It stopped protecting and started putting it in very fine boxes, saying, this is what you can do, and this is what you can't do, and if you step out of line, guess what? All those people that you're hearing about being tortured, all those people being exiled, you're on the list.
Yep.
It's crazy, and this went on for a while, and then in 1970, there was the Brazilian miracle. And that censored all media, tortured and exiled the dissidents, and that's where these numbers came into play.
Right.
And Dilma was a teenager during these times. And she was tortured for how long was it?
22 days.
22 days being tortured.
Yeah. And that's all we know of, from records. There are videos of her, speaking to the Brazilian Supreme Court, giving her account of everything that happened, and why, they were trying to charge her with all these different things for her protesting and all that. But I mean, it's pretty gruesome to to just watch her expression and her just talking about everything that happened. It's pretty powerful. And then surely she goes on to become the first woman president of Brazil, making history.
But before
all of that,
she's still a teenager at this time. But I mean, even before her presidency, we had Lula.
Right, which was also right in the fight from the very start, from the very beginning. He was there for the people, by the people.
So what do you guys know about Lula? Tell me a little bit about Lula.
I know he met Obama.
Yes.
Obama said he was cool, so he's cool with me.
This is the most influential.
Yeah, he seemed very loved by the people. I think they crowd surfed him at one event.
What was the nickname that you called him?
Grandpa.
Why?
I had heard. I have no idea.
Yeah, so he literally is the Bernie of Brazil. He
was seen as this genial.
So he comes to life when you play music and he dances around.
Different kind of genial.
Oh, okay, different type of Bernie. Gotcha. Okay.
Not like Robin Williams. Like Uncle Iroh.
Like he'll slap you to the white meat shows.
He was very Uncle Iroh. He was a man of the people.
Yeah, exactly. He was from a poor district. He wasn't part of the military regime that had power to most of everybody's life at that point. And he was an advocate for change. And when he got in, it really seemed like everything was going well. He was pushing for reforms. He was honoring his commitments.
Right.
But then things got a little stupid.
Yeah, as it does with politics and as it does with life.
Yeah.
True.
A lot of stuff that was under the surface came to light.
Right.
But that was
We're still getting a little ahead of ourselves.
yeah. Let's pull it back a bit.
So, right after Operation Brother Sam, we get the first elections by direct popular vote.
Yes,
Right?
which was the power is back to the people.
Yep. So this is 1989, the year I was born, and
Brag.
here I am in Brazil. Not watching all these things unfold because I'm just recently out of the womb.
You would have been a very well-versed baby
Yes.
had you come
Boss
up and
baby.
like, bullshit! Why is my country this way? I don't know why you're a German baby.
Yeah, for
but in my
real.
mind, that's how you came out.
Oh, no.
I don't feel right doing a brown person accent. What's wrong with that? I mean, I'm brown.
You can.
And I'm like, ugh. Like, that's so...
He's just
that's
being
so-
trying to be historically correct.
Yes,
There's
yes.
nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Unless you put on a brown face, then
But
you
how
have
is that
issues
historical?
with
I
that.
can't
Correct.
take
None
off
of
my
us are
brown
German.
face. Well, I've got German.
No, I mean, if he did a brown face, like, to the
Anyway,
story.
so the power's back to the people. Let's bring it back in.
Right, so in 1990, Brazil elects its first president by the people, which was Fernando Collor de Mello, and he actually resigned in 1992 for the very first corruption scandal in the history of Brazilian democracy.
Right.
And after that, we see the rise and fall of the other prominent politicians, like we mentioned already, Lula da Silva, Dilma Rousseff, Michel Temer, and then right now, Jair Bolsonaro.
Right.
So,
And keep Temer in mind because he does come back a little later.
oh yeah.
And I know it says Michelle, but that's actually, it can be both. It can be a guy's or girl's name. So, little fun fact about that.
Dodgeball taught me that.
Portuguese.
It's Portuguese. It's a love language.
Yeah, we don't say Michael, we say Michelle.
Michelle Jackson.
Michelle.
Anyway, so Lula ran, didn't he, in 1980?
Yep.
Yeah, and he lost.
And he lost terribly.
And then I
The
believe
people still love him, though.
they loved him.
They've loved him throughout the entire time, and I mean, like, not once. Even when he left office, in 2012,
Yeah.
he was still. I mean, like, his ratings were up the roof. Nobody, even with the corruption scandals, people still loved him because he did what he was supposed to, and we'll get into that.
There's a lot to cover there, but he ran in 1980, he ran in 1989, he ran in 1994, he ran in 1998, and all of those times he lost. He was part of the Workers' Party. He decides to compromise.
Right.
He bends for the vote.
He bends the knee.
He bends the knee just enough to say, "Hey, I'm still for you people, but in order for this to work, I gotta do this."
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You got to make deals.
Exactly.
You gotta make deals with the devil, and which is what he said. If Jesus himself came down to earth today, he'd make a deal with Judah.
But yeah,
Yes.
and it's crazy.
Because you got to see both sides, or at least listen to the other side.
Right. But the other side in this case was an open secret of corruption in the government, in the country. It was crazy. And then in 2002, I want to say, in 2002, he compromises and wins. Mm-hmm. He starts saying Brazil needs businessmen,
Right.
which is so against what he was stood for.
Sounds so familiar too.
Right, yeah, because it's good for company. What's good for the company is good for the people because it brings in jobs. It
Quote,
brings
unquote.
in exactly.
Unless we outsource them
You don't
all.
see what is going to happen just there, but he wins and hope is ignited, but at a price. Mm-hmm. So the people believed in Lula immensely at the start because he had fought for them this whole time. But that's when the scandal started to come to light.
Well, so Lula ran many times, like we talked about,
Yeah.
but he finally won, and everything seemed to kind of be going to plan.
People were dancing in the streets, literally.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Dancing in the streets.
So it was this Lula light thing, is what I heard him referred to as, because he started making deals, and that's a dangerous thing. But as a politician, you either make deals or you don't get elected.
Right, you've got to
These are
bend
the
in
rules.
some way.
Exactly. There is an establishment. If you want to fix it, you have to work from within it. So these are the costs of doing business.
Right.
And that's sketchy,
It's very sketchy.
but
But it was necessary at the time.
it absolutely was. And I think, what might have happened is toast, but this is what happened, and I think he made a reasonable decision given what he was working with. So we in Lula's administration, we saw a massive expansion of the social safety net.
Yeah.
He had a huge approval rating his entire presidency, right to the end. But there was this big scandal toward the end with Petrobras, which was the state-controlled oil company.
And one of the terms I heard was blessings turned to curses with oil.
Yeah,
it was such a good thing that brought them to 7th largest economic country in the world. But the cost was there, and at some point you got to pay the tab.
Right. Pretty much. And the way that business was being done was becoming increasingly fishy, and eventually. Scandals in Brazil. I mean, the first president was removed by a scandal.
Right!
And it's kind of been that way ever since.
It's been nuts.
But a lot of these scandals kind of didn't come to anything, but this one blew up. It came to the point where 1 in 5 members of the legislature were being investigated.
Right.
And Lula himself was implicated, this grandfather figure that everybody respected. And I think that really kind of shook faith in the system that people that believed in and thought they were building, and they thought they had a champion finally.
It was someone of the people, a poor person who grew up around them, who was for them this whole time, finally made it.
What it was like to live in that poverty,
exactly.
you know, and live throughout, in the Brazilian regime, in the military regime. You know, he understood the pain of the people,
right.
and he took it for what it was, and you know, and ran with it, and was like, hey, I'm gonna try to fix this, but then. Like Clayton was explaining here, you know, he had to make a deal, and things happened along the way, and he suffered the consequences.
Right,
because he was prepared to take the heat to do what's right for the people that he had to represent. Because nobody cared. Yeah,
he was like, took the hit for it.
I'll do it.
Yeah,
because if I don't do it, there's not going to be hope for anybody else to be able to get in this position ever again.
That's the real motherfucker, though. Like he could not shield the party.
Yeah,
he
not at all.
He could not shield the government that he had helped build from this. And it kind of, like I said, it destroyed the credibility.
And while all this scandal is happening, Dilma is named his successor for the party.
Which is a close friend of his, and people thought, well, that seemed a little bit fishy, you know. Like
it was very much like you know, you start a club, and then you've got your drunk friend Larry as treasurer, but you've known him since grade school. And it's like, we don't want him here. But it's like, not to call Dilma the drunk friend Larry.
I was going to fucking say.
I mean.
She has a couple of drinks here and there.
I mean, she's human.
She was a damn good statesman in her own right.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and her experience, her being tortured at a young age, her being a resistance fighter, you know, and it gave her the credibility. She was even said to have been like a mother to these people growing up, you know. She looked after her own.
Absolutely.
But when this scandal and the corruption started coming out, that meant nothing.
And they were both targeted, both Lula and Dilma.
So with the corruption that we've had in this system, do you guys think it was any kind of coincidence that when Lula took power, that's when it came to light? That's when it became an issue?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So there's 2 possible scenarios, I guess, 2 factors to consider. One is just how long this has been going on. And one of the factors that made this scandal so huge is that when the bribery... okay, so I guess I kind of skipped that. there was a lot of money changing hands between Petrobras Oil Company, the government, and contractors for the government.
Yeah.
So there was kind of this system where the government would hire a particular contractor, go through Petrobras, they'd get a sweetheart deal, and some of that money would come back to the politicians that made it happen.
Yeah.
And this went on for so long that these bribes were getting ridiculously huge to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Shit, just give me one of them.
And not just the monetary bribes.
Even 1% of the 1%.
Well. Yeah, you know, and they were funneling the money just through different channels so that they wouldn't have a paper trail.
Right.
And a lot of politicians, I believe it was like 2/3 of the politicians sitting in Congress in Brazil were all implicated.
Exactly so, yeah. So we have this huge swath of the government being caught up in this thing. And Lula, who is the president at the time, is in the middle of it. Whether he had anything to do with it or not, it doesn't really matter.
It didn't matter at that point at all.
Until the
he
very
was the
end,
figurehead.
Right. But until the very end, they didn't actually find anything to implicate him. You know, they didn't find anything that, like, him breaking the laws per se. The only thing that could actually stick to him was an apartment that he was gifted, which wasn't even under his own name. But that was literally the only solid piece of evidence that he had that tied into all these different contracts and all these different briberies.
So did anybody else in that political party get ousted, or was he take him?
dude.
Everybody else, but
I mean, we're talking hundreds.
so they did like clean house. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But it's like
The
you were saying
swamp
before.
got drained
Okay,
away,
just making
but
sure. I
not
was like,
really.
wow. Okay,
It's kind of like you said earlier, Kelsey. He was fighting for the people,
Yeah.
and they realized, oh, no. We don't do that here. So,
Robin Hood, nah,
yeah, not today.
not in our hood.
And so in 2010, Dilma is elected president. And again, dancing in the streets. People are rejoicing. People are excited. It is such a beautiful moment. If you look back at the videos, these people have hope. These people, they're joyous. They're literally dancing. They're tears of joy. It's
Same
fantastic.
expression that they had when Lula got elected.
It was definitely a celebration, like mass people in the streets.
Absolutely. I mean, not only was she the first woman president, but she was for the people, and that's what Brazil needed
But I
after
mean,
this massive scandal.
there was a little bit of vinegar in the wine.
Oh,
There always has to be,
Because-
right? That's what we're learning here.
So that's what makes it bitter. Okay.
It's never Jesus turning the water into wine. It's Paul or one of the other jamokes coming up and
John.
saying, I made this in my basement. My special
my
blend."
mead that's just been brewing out for years.
my stone
So-
cave.
So Dilma was a close friend of Lula. They worked together for many years. I think Dilma was Lula's vice president. Am I right about that?
So it was actually José Alencar.
Okay. That is a name. That is a mouthful of a name.
And he actually has the same last name as Lula da Silva.
Oh, okay. And De Silva, that's a
It's a very Portuguese name.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's like it's of the people. It's a common name. It's not Jones.
That's a Portuguese name.
It's a Portuguese
Is
name.
it the Portuguese like Smith?
So-
it is. It is
That's
actually.
exactly
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
Yeah. No, because when we get to talking about comic book characters, I just noticed like a couple of the prominent, like few Brazilian
Fair enough.
heroes have.
You're talking about the writers, the Silva.
Yeah, and like
There's a lot of them
There's a lot,
involved
yeah.
in these types of comics
Yeah.
that we'll get to. But in one of the interviews in the documentary I watched, Edge of Democracy, when she's talking to Dilma, she says,
She is Petra Costa.
Petra Costa. I keep wanting to say Pentecostal. And I know that's not right. That's not her name. That's probably not even her
Petra
belief.
Costa.
But Dilma says, when you get into this kind of limelight fighting for the people, one can never be truly anonymous again. And that there's a huge freedom in being anonymous. It's immense. But once you step into this light, everything's free game. And like you said, vinegar in the wine, it's no longer the 14th, ingredient down on the list.
It's up there.
It's up there in big bold
And
letters.
especially when your party is embroiled in the middle of a gigantic scandal.
Yes.
So her association with Lula, which was a good thing up to now, was suddenly a liability.
Yes.
And as a result, she didn't get to finish out her term. She was removed from office in 2016.
Which, the lead up to that, I mean, again, in this documentary in January of 2011, we see Lula leave office, and all I could think was, before watching the rest of this, those were happier times. It's such a nice farewell. They treat him and the First Lady so like family, and he leaves like family. And you see him with Dilma and Temer, and that's her vice president. And Dilma and Lula are arm in arm. They're jubilant. And then you see Temer, well, him, Michelle. And he's got his hands, in each other, pulling apart. He's very stiff.
Stern,
He's
yes.
very diplomatic. And it kind of shows this whole thing of she's enjoying the moment. He's calculating.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen, okay, this is what's going on.
What is going to be my next move?
And he's got plans. And that's where we get the Jesus would make an alliance with Judas,
Mm-hmm.
and that's... It's crazy. A little note I had here in mind is that Lula would be played by Patton Oswalt, and Giseline, is that his name?
Jazzolini.
Jazzolini would be played by Fred Armisen, but that's neither here nor there. So, what, do you guys have any comments about that first initial Dilma coming into presidency? The people still feeling the good vibes.
The good
Well,
vibes.
one,
yes.
I mean, they were still freshly wounded because of Lula. They felt betrayed.
Yeah.
And then, but here's kind of a figure like Lula, but she hadn't been implicated at any point yet, so the people she was still fresh in the people's mind.
Yeah, clean slate
Right,
for now.
exactly. This was just, she's here. It's now. Let's forget about Lula for a little while. But you couldn't forget about him because he was still very much, you know, in
she's having conversations with him.
And still showing up to family dinners.
Yes.
And I mean, not only was he just showing up for family dinners, but he was also going to be part of the government. She asked him to, what is it, Secretary of State?
I know that Lula was asked to be in the cabinet. I don't
Yes,
know
he
what
was.
position.
Right, and so which one of that phone call is what alarmed everyone, and they were like, "Well, we can't have that. We can't have Lula back. We just told him to go F himself."
Yes.
We can say fuck on this show.
Yes.
So
We earned that right.
you know, and now they're gunning for her. Now they're gunning for the entire Dilma administration, and so now we see all these different things unfold. And which leads up to the point of the Operation Car Wash.
Yep, Operation Car Wash.
Lava Jato.
Which came right off the heels of Dilma challenging the bankers.
Right,
The economy
and so
slowing.
she was open about the whole thing. Like, she was very forward. She said, hey, you know what? We're going to open an investigation, and we're going to try to figure out where our finances
Because
are
this
going.
has been an issue for a while.
Right. It's like, oh, you guys are talking about Lula with this deep scam. You know what? Let's figure it out then. Let's put it all out in the open.
And when the powers that be, PMBD and Friends, which is a great name for a comic book.
Yes, it is.
It's like the Legion of Evil. But when they get word of this and they see that she's out there in the public eye saying, we're going to figure it out, you know, we're going to find out what went wrong here. They're like, okay, cool. She's gone.
Right.
She's fucking gone.
And do you remember who was at the house when she got impeached? Do you remember who was sitting there?
Was it Tamer?
And who else right next to him? Bolsonaro.
More like balls on
Of sorrow.
to sorrow.
What even the fuck could that possibly mean?
It's a Yiddish term for that man don't know nothing.
Jon Snow.
Don't look that up. So this is all happening. The call for Dilma's impeachment comes with Operation Car Wash. It's a whole thing that was supposed to investigate the corruption, but instead was used in such a way by these politicians to target Dilma and her, you know, who she was, her integrity. It was all in the name of patriotism. Social media is used to further this agenda, and the government approval rate drops to 9%. It's craziness. Eventually, in December of 2015, Congress accepts Dilma's impeachment.
Well, and before that happened, like Clayton was talking about, you know, we saw the contracts with the Petrobras and the construction companies and the main political parties taking the briberies. And then we see the entire investigation of Sergio Moro, which was the federal judge, you know, all that unfold. And he was gunning for Dilma the entire time. I mean, we knew what his agenda was, and at the end of the day, he was going to impeach her no matter what. You know, and everyone else, I mean, this was a half and half. Like, we had half of the House saying, we need Dilma. We can't have another president just going out the door just like that. We just had Lula, you know, get out of the House. Now we have a fresh new president. She's the first woman elected. Like, this is great. You know, Brazil looks great right now. We don't need another scandal. And so they were like, well, it's not going to happen. We're going to have to impeach her. So that's what happened. They ended up impeaching her, and Michelle Temer became the president.
Which it was like this interim presidency. It was like...
which you saw in the military regime. So it was very much like that. We went back pretty much almost 40 years, you know. Like,
Talk about taking one step forward and
I don't know if you remember,
4 score back.
Kelsey, from the documentary, but... there's that conversation that is aired that they have where I believe it's Tamer or it's the meat company or
JBS, with the brothers.
They're talking about the drop in money and the exchange of money, and that they needed Dilma out. They wanted Tamer in. And
because they knew that they can control the government that way. They knew that because
he was a puppet.
Yes, they had to make that
Dilma,
profit.
Because she launched this massive investigation, you know, I mean, like, this was... It got all the way back to the U.S. Like, the CIA was involved at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were deep into it. They were trying to figure out what was going on, why Brazil was the way it was. And then, so they were gunning for Dilma the entire time.
So Dilma denies the corruption.
Right. I mean, and with every right. She was not implicated. They
didn't matter, though. But it didn't matter. She was still turned into a witch hunt.
Sure, absolutely.
Lula's detained. Dilma is not looking great. It's becoming this whole thing where they're calling for her impeachment. Moro is
Well, at the point, Lula had not been detained yet.
Really?
This was just terms. They were talking terms to detain him.
Well, I thought he was detained and forced to testify at that point. He wasn't detained as he was later on.
You're talking about the hearing that he
Yes.
had with what's his name, Sergio Moro, the federal judge.
Yes.
Yeah. So at that point, although that was kind of just really a formal hearing. Yes, he was detained, but it wasn't really like he was serving jail time at that point. He was just waiting to figure out what was actually going to happen to him. And at that point, he had actually not been given any federal charges.
Okay.
And so they were trying to figure out if that apartment actually did implicate him in those corruption charges.
Yeah, it was all these little things. And then with Dilma, they were saying she was corrupt, and some people said she was a snake, but what happened? Sometimes snakes grow wings, and no, they fucking don't. No,
Is
they
that how we get
don't.
dragons?
What's her name? You're talking about the one that she was like, I hope you forgive me, but I'm doing this for your grandchildren.
Yes. Her name was, I don't care, she was the worst.
Fuck that lady.
And
Britta.
Dilma wasn't.
That's what it
the
is.
thing with Dilma is she wasn't necessarily corrupt. She was trying to shine a light on it, but she did delay a transfer of funds to cover budget gaps,
And
which
what's-
is not good. When that comes to light, when you bring out, we're gonna get into the corruption, we're gonna see what's happening here, and then you yourself have done something that looks real shady.
And what's crazy is that for each one of those contracts, between the construction companies and Petrobras, there was a 3% bribery. I mean, we're talking about millions and millions of dollars.
Follow the
just
money, honey.
funnily up. God.
Woo! So this was compared to, again, more of a coup than an impeachment.
Right. No, it absolutely was. It was another coup. So this was another golpe no Estado do Brasil. And at this time, it was to take Dilma out of the presidency at any cost. It didn't matter who they were trampling over, they were going to do it.
And at this point, Eduardo Cunha, he comes into light. He's another PMBD snake.
He's the president of the lower house.
Yes, he bought his vote. He's a crook, and he uses his funds. He hides his funds in a website called Jesus.com.
Yeah, and
Which is like when you were a kid and you go to porn.com and you're like, that's where all the boobs are, right?
So
it's
the documentary that we keep referring to, if you guys didn't hear earlier, it is called The Edge of Democracy, and that's by Petra Costa. And if you decide to watch it, you will see, everything that we're talking about here, especially what we just discussed right now with Cunha, and all of the the briberies and all the things.
And I'll admit, man, watching this documentary, it took a fucking toll on me.
heartbreaking.
I had to watch The Good Place afterwards to get myself back into
a good place.
I had to watch some
Because
Letterkenny.
I realized, these people through all this time, because we're just gonna let's run through it real quick. But what you're gonna see here for the rest of the Dilma stuff is the people ended up voting 80% to keep her there.
Yeah.
80% of the people, the majority by far, and it didn't mean a damn thing. And you see these people broken. And there's nothing more humbling than having to clean out your own office after something like that. Damn. After the people said, we still want you, we still believe in you, this isn't worth it, we can't do this. And having to settle for that impeachment when the people have turned against you, the same people that you fought for. It broke me to a degree that I was like, there's no point to anything. It was very much like Chidi in season 3, where I'm like, nothing means anything. The true philosophy you should subscribe to is nihilism. Because do you fight for a tomorrow that you might never see, even if you're gonna die before it, or do you live in the moment and accept that this is it?
Yeah.
And talking with Clayton, ¿por qué no los dos?
Yeah, I think it kind of has to be. Because if you want to get the energy to fight for another day, you have to give a shit about where you're at.
Right.
And the only way to do that is to enjoy your life at least a little bit, You have to find satisfaction in the little stuff to propel you forward. And for me, at least, that helps me deal with the fact that we are, to borrow Don Quixote, we're tilting at windmills. These are big, big problems.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest. And are we going to beat them? I have no idea. I have absolutely no clue. But I figure it's worth a shot, and I'm going to do the stuff that keeps me in the game.
Yeah. And I think that's a better idea than just rolling over and saying, we were fucked when we were born, you know?
Yeah.
We were beaten then. And instead try and keep going. Yeah. Bringing it back around to Dilma. Thank you, Clayton.
Thank you, Clayton.
So
Cheers.
we see her impeachment steadily moving forward. She's suspended.
Right.
And was it just me, or was that like the most sexist thing where they were like...
Absolutely. And you see at the very end, all these congressmen hugging each other. All men, all white men.
All white men.
All hugging each other.
All white men.
And going, we fucking impeached her. Fuck the bitch. That is literally what they said. They said, fuck that bitch. Vai pra puta que pariu. And I'm not going to say the rest because it was freaking nasty.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, that is exactly what they did, just because they were men and they felt like she did not belong.
As the suspension is taking place, they are there with these shit-eating grins, and they're laughing, saying, "Bye, dear. Oh, goodbye." And it's infuriating.
Bolsonaro took the stand, and he was up there talking all sorts of shit about her. And at the very end, he said, "We're doing this for Jesus. We're doing this for our fundamentalists, our fundamental ways. For the people, for what."
In the name of the Lord, in the name of the
name
family,
of Jesus.
in the name of Jesus Christ, I declare this woman must leave. In the name of Jesus Christ, I declare we are a Christian state again. And in the name of Jesus Christ, I say we give them all guns.
So,
and he's about
please
all
subscribe
of
to
this.
Jesus.com.
They're all Southerners down there now.
And he goes, that's going to be my Bolsonaro voice for the rest of it. He goes, they call me rude, homophobic, fascist, etc. I'm a hero. But he's all those things and none of the last.
Exactly.
He's not a hero.
He's openly homophobic
He
and
is.
racist. And
Yeah.
He says...
Even said he'd kill his son.
Yeah.
yeah,
If
I don't
you're-
think I could tolerate a gay son. Like, that's a direct quotation.
Yeah.
This isn't speculation.
Not at all.
No.
He doesn't hide it. He doesn't feel the need to hide
He doesn't
it.
care for
Because
LGBT at all. He
powers
doesn't
in the
care for
numbers, and
indigenous
everybody-
people. He doesn't
yeah.
care for black people. He thinks that slaves are fucking shit. And
Yeah,
they
Kelsey, he'd make you a slave real
Yeah,
fast.
well, that's why I'm not trying to go to Brazil. But it's like one of them things
Well,
when
you're in the U.S. and it ain't far off from Brazil, bud.
hey, it's close enough away. But it's like one of them things too when you have people in power, especially in that position with misogynists and people like that. They are going to do anything and everything in their power to make sure it stays a good old boy club.
That's right.
And everybody that has power looks like them while they try to belittle each other, make more money than each other, and do all the gay shit that they hate people to do behind
Exactly.
closed doors.
Oh, yeah, man.
And have sex with people of color as well, because
And
they do that too.
They're doing all this. They're denouncing, all the advancements we make. And I'm not blaming it on the lizard people this time. This time I'm blaming it on
Wait. Brazilian lizard.
Lysian?
I'm just saying, man.
Lizzo?
I'm just
Is
saying.
Lizzo a lizard person?
She might
Is
be.
she more? You think she's Pleiadian or
I don't know.
Anunnaki?
She might be Jurassic. That's all. I'm
How
saying.
long do we let this go?
My man.
Moving on. So now, so we see the fall of Dilma.
Oh, and she falls hard.
Oh, she fucking does, and she's still falling.
It's so sad. But
You can still hear her screams.
as someone said, you cut off the arm to preserve the rest. They didn't care who they lost in this witch hunt, in this impeachment. They didn't care about their own people that they had going for that, because as long as they got that party out of the way, they could lose as many as they want and remake those numbers in no time.
And which is exactly what happened.
Yes.
I mean, we see, the Partido dos Trabalhadores, which is PT. We see PMDB, break off from them because of the scandals. And at that point, they're like, well, we're not going to associate ourselves with you guys because of everything that's happened with Lula and Dilma. And
Lula wasn't even in a spotlight again as much until Dilma was out of the way. They moved her out of the way. They got her done. And she says during her final trial, which, you could hear the room silence when she says, we will all be judged by history. And those people that took the bribes, those people that, were paid to go against her, you kind of feel them all go, ooh.
Yeah, but they did it anyway.
But they did it anyway.
So, guess
So-
it didn't mean that much, did it?
Not at all.
Nah.
So now we are at the Bolsonaro administration.
Well, real quick before that, one thing I do want to point out is in July of 2017, Moro sentences Lula to 9.5 years in prison. Lula, during May of that year, was demonized and given a chance to defend himself. In February of that year, his wife died, and he's a broken man. It's all the lead up to him going to jail. And then from 9.5 years, it goes to 12 years.
And a month.
In a month,
Dang.
they up it again.
Yeah.
And one of the crazy things is that, BBC and people from Britain were like, this is crazy. They don't hold justice to the same degree we do.
Mm-hmm.
The most important right of a defendant is the right to an impartial judge.
Right.
And Moro was not. It was very Count of Monte Cristo-esque, where he's the one who put out the evidence, and then he's the one who judged on it when he was involved in all of it. He wasn't impartial. It was all a takedown. And that's something we learn about later on, that it was all meant to just take them down.
Kind of like how Scarecrow had that court system in Dark Knight Rises.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
I'm part of the problem now. I'm part of the problem
the
now.
corruption goes there.
Yeah.
Eventually, Bolsonaro, like you said, he...
Well, actually, I did just forget Temer.
his corruption came to light after
Right,
Dilma.
with,
and that's where the 80% of people were saying, investigate this motherfucker.
Right, and they at that point, they were like, this is too much. We just had now through 2 presidents, just go right on through,
Yeah.
and now we can't have this. And
It was set up in a great way to where they could get 2 people out quickly to then say, guys, we can't do this a 3rd time. Come on, we're going to be the laughing stock of the world if we change presidents like we change clothing.
Yeah.
Can we though?
Yes, we can. As the people, we should have the right to do that.
Yeah.
As the people, we have rights that should exist and do exist on paper, but not in actuality.
Exactly. We don't impeach everybody till we get one.
Right.
And then going back to the conversation that Temer had with the Batista brothers, and those contracts. And, that is what implicated him, and that is the reason why he was thrown out of office.
Well, and the same people that called for Dilma's impeachment due to her corruption changed their
Yeah, that's
tune
quote unquote, by the way.
Yeah, changed her tune when Temer is to be investigated. It was all a setup.
Yeah.
It was all a setup. And, he isn't investigated, even though 80% of the people want him investigated, and the people do what the people do best. They protest. They riot in the streets. But this time they're met with police and military, and they're like, nope, you're done. You're done here. And the people are broken. Except for the people in the camp of those in power.
Right.
And that's one of the sad things. You can see it in their eyes. They believe they're right. They believe they've chosen correctly. And it's this thing where we believe we're right until we're not. But these people, they're like, no,
you
those
can
are the
vote,
idiots.
and you may regret it down the line, but it still doesn't change anything.
But this leads to Bolsonaro rising to power.
Right.
And that's where we are now. He calls himself I'm their new redeemer, even though he's an anti-democratic.
So the Trump of the tropics.
Yeah.
How do you feel about him, Clayton?
Not great, I gotta tell you.
And why is that? Please elaborate.
Did we hit the whole racist, homophobe, xenophobe, sexist?
We can hit it all up again because...
Oh, you don't hit it as much as you hit your gay son and hope he don't come out that way. That's Bolsonaro.
Right. It's just a whip, right?
Yeah,
Pull
just
out
a whip.
whip.
Oh, so come out literally and figuratively
Yeah.
from the womb and the closet.
It's
Gotcha.
Bolsonaro. Yeah.
He is, I think Trump of the Tropics is just right. Because he is stupid and short-sighted in all the exact same ways. He wants to shut
the
down
only
the
difference
country.
is that he actually decided to join the military. He didn't defer.
No burnt bone spurs.
Don't burn him anymore. He's sunburned as hell.
At least he's not a draft dodger.
Right, exactly.
That's the one fucking thing we can say about
He
Bolsonaro.
fought for his country.
Yeah. Ugh.
And now he's
And then
fighting
he fucks
against
it
it.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's better, but no, I fucking hate this guy.
Right.
I hate everything he stands for. I hate his stance towards the native population. I hate what he's doing to the Amazon, and I think that he either misunderstands what the consequences of this are going to be, or he is so indifferent and so short-sighted and just so devil-may-care about the future of his own country.
Yes.
That it doesn't matter.
And that's the problem with a lot of them are they only care about what they have now versus what people will need later. So when you don't care about the later, you don't care about progressing your mind
Oh yeah.
or the
'cause
votes.
And later may not come, and
Yeah.
the money is now.
Exactly, and money you can't take it with you. So what's the point of having it all? Because basically, this is what it all boils down to with all this corruption. It's like people want to be rich. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What if you die tomorrow? You dead. That rich shit ain't gonna bring you back to life.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
right.
So it's like
That seems to be the only motivation.
exactly, which
and
sucks.
you were saying his stances on the native people, which one of the first things that he did in office was actually so FUNAI, which is FUNAI, they oversee the indigenous populations and their rights. And the very first thing that he did when he took office was take that function away from FUNAI and give it to the Ministry of Agriculture, which so happened to be the same people that were taking bribes from JBS. So you already see that corruption flowing in right away, and nobody's trying to, investigate him
At all.
like whatsoever. I mean, we're just sitting there just waiting, the whole fucking world collapses and the Amazon burns down to the fucking ground and we'll die.
But,
Basically.
these people don't
all of
care.
the powerful interests are aligned right now.
Exactly.
And that's the fucking worst thing that can happen to a government. You need there to be some conflict. You need there to be some push and pull. Mm-hmm. Because if everybody who wants the same thing gets all the power, then you're just fucking going.
Yes.
Nothing stops you.
Yeah.
And that feels like where we're at. And that's an extremely dangerous place.
Absolutely.
For the most biodiverse place on Earth.
Right.
Yes.
Literally making up, 20%?
20% of
all
Earth
our
is
air.
oxygen. Yep, and it houses 10% of the all of species in the world.
Because guess what? We're about to start paying for air in like 2 generations.
Yeah.
It's gonna be air in a can. Just
Quick note, that 20% of the oxygen thing, that's not true.
What?
Yeah, sorry. This has been quoted a billion
okay.
fucking times.
So correct this.
It's about 5%. Almost all of the oxygen that we get comes from the ocean. Almost.
Well, we're fucking that up too.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to say that we aren't fucked, because we are 100% fucked.
Oh yeah.
But science, whatever.
Well, that's still
Please,
that's
thank you,
still
enlighten us.
for real. That's still a significant portion.
Oh yeah, no,
when we count
5%
that.
is a shitload.
I mean,
Yeah.
think about how big the world
is,
yeah,
and the
like,
ozone layer being depleted, and how bad air is in general, and it doesn't get any cleaner.
Right.
Over
This
the
is a
years.
hit we do not need to take.
It's a hit we should not take.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he doesn't care. He even said that he will burn it down within a centimeter. There won't be a centimeter left.
Millimeter.
And then he's like, "Oh, I misspoke.
So-
I meant a millimeter."
But that was not. He was not referring to the
was
burning
indigenous
of the
people, though.
exactly. And so
It was about the people.
taking the land that they so rightly deserve. And
that they just won in court. And what happened when they won in court? We all know. The fires went ablazing.
Yeah.
yeah.
So if I state this wrong, I hope you correct me. But just to put in perspective how much the Amazon is burning compared to like the United States, the amount of Amazon that's on fire is equivalent from Florida to almost upper Maine of the United States being on fire. That's how
Almost
much
the
bigger.
entire
Eastern
Coast.
East Coast is on fire compared to America, because that's how big Brazil is. I think people underplay the amount.
Well, the
of-
the land mass
yeah,
is
the land mass.
approximately the same, where it's
Yeah.
just off by like maybe 1,000.
Yeah, no, I totally buy that.
Yeah.
Brazil
Yes.
is one of the biggest contiguous continents
Yes.
on Earth.
So think about that.
Or countries. Jesus.
He could care less about the Amazon burning. I mean, this is part of his agenda. He wants it to burn. And why? Please enlighten us, Clayton.
Well, basically, there's a whole hell of a lot of money to be made this way.
And how?
Let's talk about the main exports, shall we? No, so have we talked about JBS yet?
We've
Little
talked
bit.
about it. We talked about the contracts and the scandals.
But again,
and-
JBS, our largest meat company in
the world.
The world. The whole blue marble.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they have
Third rock from the
4
sun.
main plants, which one of them happens to be right here in Colorado in Greeley.
Woo.
And they
No wonder it
happen
smells
to,
like that.
Because of our great environmental laws, they happen to spill all sorts of nastiness from the
Yeah.
meats into our waterways.
It's the
And,
fucking worst.
yeah, so
That's
we're
why
all gonna
Coors tastes
fucking
like
die.
that.
But I mean, that's inevitable. But it just might kill us a little bit faster.
I can only hope.
So yeah,
So one of the things that we keep hearing about the Amazon is on fire.
Yeah.
That is what people say. But the correction to that I like is the Amazon is being burned.
right.
That is the
Right.
correct way to say this. Because these are not natural fires.
I mean, there are natural fires.
There are natural
There are
fires.
plenty,
for sure.
especially in the dry season. You know, this is a
this
common
is
occurrence
different.
every year. Yes, very much so. I mean, there are thousands of fires that happen in the Amazon during the dry season, but this is politically motivated.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, your sentiment is dying and being killed.
Yeah, basically. I wouldn't say such and such died if they were shot in the fucking face.
Right.
I would tell you they got murdered.
Yes.
And that is the situation. So the fires are up 80% from a normal year. This isn't the worst year on record for the record.
Okay.
A really screwed up El Nino back when...
A little boy?
Stop that. No, El Nino, the weather pattern.
Yes. Well, there's a whole generation that didn't even grow up with that phenomenon.
This was also during a time where deforestation was way, way worse.
Right.
Which we're heading back into now.
Yeah,
And it slowed down. It slowed down for a couple decades.
Man, great work was being done. Mm-hmm. And that's what fucking really breaks the heart about this thing is we know we can fix this.
We do know we can fix
Right,
this.
and we at some point we almost were there. You know, it stopped or it didn't stop completely, but it slowed down, and so we were able to catch up and plant trees and be able to get to a point where
People
like,
actually
we were
cared about it for a little bit. You remember that?
Yeah.
Planting a tree in the
I mean,
Amazon.
and you had all the PSAs in the 90s, like the Mutant Ninja Turtles,
G.I. Joe.
Captain Planet.
Right. I mean,
Planet
we
for sure.
had
They
fucking
raised
Kevin
us better than
Spacey
this.
had their like, fuck that guy. I felt like fuck that guy. But
Hey,
still.
but he saved trees
Hold on.
though.
First we talk about El Nino, and now we're talking about Kevin Spacey. Don't let him
And
hear
El
the
Nino.
Nino.
So many
Keep
Ninos.
him away from the Nino.
Planting wood and things. Come on, man.
But
That was annoying, Grandma.
sorry, man, you fucking lost me, Kevin.
I mean,
pretty hard to be on
it's
that
one of
guy's
those
side.
weird things where when someone is outed as a pedophile, suddenly they're no longer popular. It's crazy. Almost like it should happen more often. Anyway, the Amazon is on fire, and Kevin Spacey's not in there.
No,
so
the Amazon
shame.
is being burned.
Yeah, the Amazon is being burned. It's a land grab. It is openly a land grab.
Yeah.
And whether or not... So, Bolsonaro has denied any involvement because that's what you fucking do when people ask you questions. And whether or not he is actually involved, it doesn't matter. He pulled the teeth out of their equivalent of the Environmental Protection
And I mean,
Agency.
he is the president. He is
Yeah.
supposed to be fucking fixing this.
You set the tone
Yes.
for
Right.
the country. So when the country is responding this way, that's on you.
Right.
And this is what's happening. And sure, like his lunatic follower, that's a shitty thing to say.
I mean, it might be defamation of character, but let's say it anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever. His
cult.
adherents
We're not that popular. I
are
did.
setting,
We're not going to get any clout for it.
they're setting fires in solidarity at this point.
Yeah.
Like this is burning down the Amazon is now a political action.
Uh-huh.
Which is totally insane. And by the way, the only people that are profiting from this are the gigantic agribusiness.
So
in Brazil.
it's their MAGA hat, but to an absurd degree.
I mean, he ran to make Brazil great again.
Yeah, he
that
said
was
so.
his campaign slogan.
Yeah, it seriously was. So
Interesting.
again, Trump of the tropics,
Yeah.
not off base.
No.
Not at all.
Was it hat red or green?
So the G7 recently came in, and they right?
No, the G7's not happening until Saturday. Is it?
Well, no,
No, it came and went.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
is
came and
it?
went. It's done.
This Saturday?
No.
This Saturday? Okay,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Just recently. So let me try that again.
Put that thing down, flip it in reverse.
I told you, I'm
Hey, that will
fucking
happen when you
man.
get old, man. That's just true, man.
So the G7 just recently offered help, right?
That was not from the G7.
Oh, then who was that from?
Well, that was from France and the other countries that do believe in climate change and that this is actually affecting climate change. But
It was going to be a European...
it was basically the European Union.
an aid package.
Yeah.
I was going to say bailout. That's not right. They just wanted to...
Almost a
literally and
humanitarian
freely-
where we just want this to stop.
Yeah, they wanted to contribute funds to put out the fire, which is a pretty no-shit thing to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And unfortunately, Bolsonaro and Macron got in some sort of argument.
Over something stupid.
It was literally
Of
just
course.
words with these folks. It was name-calling.
Yeah.
It's kindergarten shit.
Weren't they talking about each other's wives or something?
Bolsonaro said something shitty about Macron's wife, and Macron said something shitty about Bolsonaro.
He goes, I bet you your wife will put out all the gay boys. And she's like, my kids ain't gay. And then they punched each other. And then they
I'm
kissed.
sure
On Twitter.
it was
And
just
then
like
they
that.
kissed.
They Twitter punched.
They did do a lot of Twitter boxing. So, all this fucking nonsense, nobody cares.
Yeah.
The only thing anyone gives a shit about is whether or not we're going to do something about this.
If
And
action is
the
going
answer
to be taken.
No.
So
Because
yeah.
Bolsonaro, and I'm pretty sure this was just sort of okay, so Bolsonaro won't take the 20 million unless there's an official apology from Macron,
Right,
which is probably not coming because that's childish and idiotic. But
Right.
Macron should probably just swallow his pride and do it. But
Right.
the long and short of it is, Bolsonaro is obsessed with this concept of sovereignty, that he gets to decide what happens in his own borders.
Right.
And
Even though the Amazon is shared with
how many countries?
8.
Yeah.
8 countries.
And what about the air that we breathe?
Right.
That's the
And the
thing.
fumes and those things of that nature.
Solidarity is a fucking myth.
We're seeing, what is it? Sao Paulo's 1,500 kilometers away from the Amazon, and they're seeing black clouds of smoke and smelling all the burning coming from the Amazon. And I mean, this is ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
that's a long
Right.
distance, dude. You know, for them to be seeing those clouds of smoke, the sky's black. That's those.
The
those are
jet
big
stream
fucking fires.
does not give a fuck where you live.
Right.
True.
Things travel. So this concept that even just Brazil or even the United States gets to decide everything that happens in its borders with no input from the outside world, and that's just how it is. That concept is outmoded and dead ass wrong, and it's
Right.
time
I
to
agree.
lose it. So that's kind of where we're at.
I mean,
the world wants
One
to
world,
help.
right? What happened to that? Remember?
Yeah, I don't even care anymore.
We are
One
the world.
I-
we
I-
are one.
I'm kind of hoping for 45, and then be done. I don't think the way this planet's headed is, we're not going to make it that much longer.
yeah.
So download these episodes as fast as you can, folks. Get them wherever you get your music and podcasts. That's Escaping Podcast at DanielLovesYou.com. So G7 just happened. What was that all about?
I mean, it's basically more of the same. Most of Europe is considering shutting down trade with Brazil, specifically shutting down anything that could harm the Amazon. That's
Right,
the beef
beef,
industry,
coffee,
leather,
sugar,
coffee.
yeah.
Exactly.
And that's another thing
Soybeans.
too, because coffee's already about to go on extinct because of the soils being too hot because global temperatures are rising. So the coffee and cocoa beans.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're running out of
that's-
White Claw
Yeah,
here in
we've
the
got
States
greenhouses
too.
all over.
Exactly.
It's not just being grown like naturally anymore.
Yeah,
so.
but then you got the bees too, because when the bees go,
That's something that we took seriously for a
they're
little bit.
not
and then forgot.
endangered anymore.
Are they not?
Yeah, no, they're
Okay.
they're actually okay.
Good.
Wu-Tang forever.
They deserve the Earth. They deserve the Earth.
now.
We don't.
Man,
They gonna be
it
here.
kills me that that's the one we took seriously. Because that's
Out of
the
all
one that would have
things,
killed,
right?
like, not humans.
Well, they were
that
working on
would've killed
robotic bees.
profits.
You remember that?
Say what?
when they were working on robotic
Yeah,
bees?
I do. Artificial pollinators.
Yeah.
Black
Like in
Mirror
that
on
Richie
too.
Rich movie?
Yes.
Yeah,
And Black
actually.
Mirror.
But they were going to artificially pollinate all of
Yeah. Like
that's
who
exactly
needs?
what was happening.
Who needs
Fake
Mother
bee
Nature?
sex?
I mean, which is what
we
we
could
would do if other species went extinct. We would try to do it robotically, and it's been said all throughout is that if something happens, I mean, heck, that's why we're creating robots, isn't it? Like
Robots that can
take
shoot
over
guns
the
now.
field, like,
Have you seen that?
Humans like.
They're teaching robots how to shoot targets.
Anyway,
now.
we're derailing you
Fucking
guys.
nuts.
All right, let's jump back into
G7, yes.
Yes.
Insane.
Yes.
I think we hit the
Basically-
headlines. The world wants to do something about this. Bolsonaro does not.
Right.
And he's the line that everyone has to go through in order to do something in Brazil legally.
That
Right?
makes sense.
So it's
And
coming to the
ethically.
point where someone's going to have to do something illegally, which may well happen.
Yeah.
And we all get to deal with the fallout.
Right, and with the agriculture business, we're seeing a lot of this the harm being done to the actual indigenous people residing in the Amazon. We're even what are the Guajajara, their tribe. They're
guardians
actual,
of the forest.
Right,
Yes.
they are little fighters. I mean, they're armed to the teeth, and every single day, they're fighting illegal poachers, they're fighting illegal deforestation, and they're at the forefront, and they're the ones that are losing their land to these poachers and deforestations and big companies. And they're the only ones actually trying to. I mean, I'm not saying they're the only ones because obviously there are a lot of people out there, trying to figure out how we're going to do this.
Right.
But they're the ones that inside of it all, literally inside, while everything is burning around them, and they're seeing their entire history just go down in flames.
Right.
So we go from there, and we see what the indigenous people are doing, and how they're giving their part. Now, how the other corporations are, how are they playing a role into this? Like we've talked about GBS, and I mean they are at the forefront of everything that's evil in the Amazon.
Yes.
we've talked about their contracts extensively throughout this podcast, this episode today. Just through all of the different administrations in Brazil, how they've been just deeply involved through every single contract and every single illegal activity within the government. And then we're still seeing that today. I mean, if you look at the numbers of how much money they're bringing in each year, and this is not even in Brazil. Did you know that they're the plant that profits the most is actually in the United States and is the one
here in Greeley?
Colorado.
That's
Correct.
crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's insane,
Fucking
man.
Colorado.
I mean, we're talking billions and billions and billions of dollars, and this is how these guys are able to literally control the world, and they do control the world. This is not some fucking conspiracy theory.
No.
The Batista brothers have been able to literally control governments throughout the entire, all nations.
Well, and I mean, there was that great quote, and we do got to wrap it up here in just a minute, but I'd like to read this quote that was at the end of the documentary. That, man, it's you'll hear. It's from an ancient Greek philosopher. Democracy is only working when the rich feel threatened. Otherwise, oligarchy takes over. From father to son, from son to grandson, from grandson to great-grandson, and so on in succession. We are a republic of families. Some control the media, others control the banks. They own the sand, the rock, the iron. And all so often, it happens that they get tired of democracy, of its rule of law. How do we deal with the pain of being thrown into a future that looks as bleak as our darkest past? What do we do when the mask of civility falls, and what appears is an ever more haunting image of ourselves? Where do we gather the strength to walk through the ruins and start anew? At what point do we say enough is enough?
I mean, we've been saying enough is enough.
Yeah.
But that's the thing.
How do you say
Exactly.
enough is enough in a way that matters?
I mean, I guess
I wish I
just
knew the
have
answer
to take
to
the
that.
stand
Yeah.
and run for office.
Death and change. The people in power have to die out, and new people have to replace
Well,
them.
that's the
Exactly.
thing. Like,
Yeah, I
but
believe
people,
that, yeah.
but people in power die all the time, and like then some other asshole.
Yeah,
takes over.
because they're being groomed into the positions, and they just keep it in that club, that fraternity. So when we want to vote somebody in power, we have like an electoral college that allows the system to be hacked, and then you get the person that loses the popular vote by like 10 million, not to be the president, for example.
Right.
And there are situations that occur now might not have happened if that was said to happen, but it's one of those things too. Like, we have to figure out a way, because we, the people, have the power. There's more of the people that care than there are the shitty ones. So we got to figure out how to come together ourselves to get this shit really actually done.
And it's one of those things, we like it in the movies. We like seeing A Bug's Life, Disney, Pixar,
Like with Flint.
whatever. Yeah.
Or what you call it from Hunger Games? What you call it?
The PETA guy?
No, not Peter. Katniss.
Katniss!
She stood up. She put up little threes and whatnot.
That's right. She threw up gang signs. She
Yeah,
whistled
she
with
did.
hot
Like,
tea,
no,
and
we need
people
to
rallied.
rise up and do
I
all
mean,
that.
I
It's,
think
like you said, it's all cute in the game, so
It's
you got to be the
cute,
one to die for
exactly.
it.
It's good in fiction.
Nobody wants to be Joan of Arc.
Right. We're in a comic book store.
Yes.
We've got heroes that are around that can do great things.
Yes.
But then we got to realize that we don't live in a world of heroes, and that is me
yeah.
getting dire, and I don't do that in a dour in this
Yeah.
podcast. But like I said, after watching this documentary, I watched A Good Place, and the question at the end of it was, what do we owe each other? None of us are in this alone. If there are no moral deserts, what do we owe each other? We owe each other everything.
Everything.
Exactly.
But nobody thinks that way.
No,
I mean,
no.
I wouldn't say nobody.
No, people
some
do
people
think
do.
that way. It's just easy
not
for
enough.
that to be quelled.
Yes.
I mean,
exactly.
I just think that not enough people think that way, though.
It's funny how like we go back
We're
to
content.
Yes,
We're very content.
If we go back to them believing in the Bible and all that, do unto others.
Yeah, do unto
You
others.
wouldn't want us to do unto you if that's the way you want the world to really be. We have to take care of each other. We have to be nice. We have to be compassionate, because that's the type of energy that holds us together. Because if it doesn't, we break down. And it's anarchy.
Well, and that's why I liked what Clayton said. You got to have both.
Yes.
You do have to fight for that tomorrow,
Yes.
even if it's not your tomorrow.
Yes.
I mean,
And you
there's
do have
got to
to
be a
build
balance
here.
of good and evil.
Yes.
I mean, I think that evil is necessary, so that we can wake up.
I mean, I'd like to do some evil towards Bolsonaro.
Because if there was no evil, you have nothing to learn from or know how to be better.
No threats of violence here.
Exactly.
Oh, no. Like, just slander and cyberbullying. I'd like to make him think his forehead's
Twitter.
too big.
I'm sorry, but once
or
again...
his eyes are too close together. Or maybe you could talk about his weight. You know? Like, the guy could go on a diet. We cyberbully him.
The dude is comfortable being called a Nazi.
It's the worst. I
What are
don't
you
know
gonna
how
say
to.
to
I don't know. I gotta
Pressure.
find something like uneven eyebrows. And he goes, no. And maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't have any ideas. He's such an evil person. And I don't know what to do about it. But we are real close to being out of time here.
Yes.
Gio, final points. Hit us with them.
I mean, there's a lot that we can do, you know, not just for the Amazon, but just to do our part, you know, in general on Earth. Recycle, reduce, reuse. You know,
Close the loop.
just
Revolt. Rise up. Revolutions.
I mean, take a stand. You know, no violence. I would never condone any violence, but take a stand. You know, fight for what you believe in, and
Yes.
and hopefully that's for the greater good of humanity. What thoughts do you have, Clayton?
So this has kind of been a little bit bleak, especially toward the end here. So I guess I just want to say, like, we're gonna get through this.
Yeah.
Everybody. Like, this is not the end of us. We are
Not yet,
playing
anyway.
with dangerous things, and you know, this fucking fascist bullshit comes in waves. This is the third or fourth time we've gone through this, and it always seems like everybody's waiting for permission to do the shitty thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in this country, it was permission to be fucking racist and horrible to each other.
True.
Just like
They
we
were
saw
given a
in
voice.
fucking
Yeah.
Richmond and shit.
Yeah.
And there, it's permission to move into these areas that were protected for so long. And I get that everybody wants to stick their hand in the cookie jar every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that the vast majority of us get it.
Right.
And maybe this is just some childish thing that we need to get out of our systems. And this is going to be ugly, and we're going to have a fight about it, but we're going to be better when we're done with this.
These are some rough growing
No,
pains if
no,
what you're saying
okay.
is true.
It's either that or this is it.
But
so
how-
I'm choosing to see it the one way, you know?
But look, okay, but that's like, just, you know, the world. But back to the Amazon, just real quick. What can we do? Like, really though, what can we do? Because you know that JBS is in power. We know everything that what's happening right now. But how do we fight that? You know, like, how do we fight that legally?
Cyberbullying?
I mean, I guess we cyberbullied a whole hurricane away.
I mean, if we could throw nukes at it, then I can call it fat. Is that okay?
Which,
I'm not going to body shame it, but it's a hurricane. It's going to kill all of us.
Only photos I love are cake. So,
Boom.
word.
I don't know. So you're just asking what we could do legally. What ideas do you have?
Unless I run for fucking president of Brazil, I don't know. What
Yeah,
else
right. That's one of those things. I don't think any of us here have the answers. I don't think anyone listening has those answers. I think it's
We start by asking the question.
we start by asking the questions.
I mean, we're talking about, like, JBS is even getting tax breaks from the United States.
Right.
You saw the whole thing with the Chinese tariffs and how that affected farmers, and because they're farmers here, they also were given that tax
Sure.
break. And like that's we're just all, you know, this is like happening all over the place. So how there is no way for us, for common folk, to fight these people. You know, the 1%.
The power has to fall to the people, though. Again, there are more of
I
us.
mean, we're talking about, like, unless we raise fucking anarchy, man, it ain't gonna happen. And, like, for us to even be able to do that, like, this has got to be some organized shit, you know?
So,
like, we're not just talking about, like, tiki torches. Let's just get our tiki torches and
No,
go out there and protest.
I'm
Like,
neither
no.
gonna condone or
No, absolutely not. No, but
demonize anarchy.
no, but look, that's what I'm saying, though. You know, it would have to get to that point for us
Right.
to do anything about it, because at this, like, none of us have enough power. None of us have a voice enough that, you know, it's got to reach those people and actually make a difference.
But we
make an
don't need to
impact.
reach those people. We need to reach those people around us. It's asking the questions. It's causing it's starting the conversations in our communities.
Right.
That's the power we have.
Hit them where it hurts.
None of us are able to go and have a meeting with Bolsonaro or the president or any of that. But what we can do is start these conversations here, and I think that's the point of having this episode, is to start the conversation here.
Right.
Yes.
I mean,
some people might feel like, because some people might feel like it's just a Brazil issue, but a Brazil issue. It reaches us and it becomes our issue because our issue is a world issue. And being America, we are the quote unquote the most powerful nation in the world. So our influence goes a lot. So we could start working on us. Maybe we could also start influencing other people
set the
to wake
tone
up. Yes, set the tone. Exactly. Yeah. To quote my third favorite captain, I guess, the power is yours. So the power is ours. Go planet.
Right. Go planet. Go planet. We do need to wrap up here. Clayton, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
My pleasure.
Man, it's been a wild one today, so thank you.
It's a heavy topic, but we got to talk about it.
Where can the people find you, or is there any good music you're listening to, or any good games? What are you enjoying in your life right now?
I'm violently allergic to social media, so don't look me up. That's the best solution.
I like that.
What are you enjoying in your life right now?
Play a lot of Terraria with my buddy online.
Okay.
In Seattle. I mean, that's not very interesting.
That's some people might be into that. You never know.
Right.
Here's an interesting thing. I do research for drug development for colon cancer medications.
Wow.
So hopefully, if everything goes really, really, really well, I will be able to actually do something for humanity. But we'll see how that all shakes out.
As someone that lives with you, I believe in you. You've got a really good head on your shoulders, and I think you're going to do great.
Cheers.
Kelsey, what plugs you got?
Plus I got, let's see now. I definitely would recommend watching the documentary
Edge of Democracy. By Pepe Costa.
Yes, on Netflix. It's definitely worth the watch.
It's a heavy one though.
Yeah, it's a heavy one, but at the same time, I wouldn't have been a preview to a lot of this information if I didn't know about it, and just to see how our democracy in itself can be shut down and risen and corrupted in various places, because we get a lot of times stuck in our own bubble here. But once you realize the connection that we do have to the world, like I said before, affects us here. So we definitely got to start paying attention to our brothers and sisters at South America, everywhere else around the world. So just, pay attention to those things, and just, keep an open ear, an open mind, and just realize, like, we all in this together. So
Absolutely.
Everybody got to do their part. And I do think one of the things that can hurt people is by hitting them in their pockets, because it's all about greed and money. So if we could find out better ways to not buy necessary meats,
boycott
these things,
coffee, boycott anything that's coming out of Brazil right now. Like, I'm serious, and I'm a Brazilian. Like, I'm saying this because I believe in
keeping it
I
real.
believe in change, and I think that we can do something about it if we just take a stand and we say, the minimum that we can do right now is just say, I'm not going to buy these products until all the shit just
It's
ends.
a choice you can make. At
Exactly.
our house, and
it's a small choice,
Right.
and it's just it just takes a second of your day to just say, I'm not going to have that coffee. I'm not going to go and buy that beef. I'm just going to, I'm not saying go vegan.
Does this mean I have to go back to Red Bull again? Let's just quit it.
I know, because of the acai and the
yeah, it's one of those things.
taurine.
What else is going on in your life, Kelsey? I know we just celebrated your birthday. That
was, we did. I'm still recovering from that.
Yeah, that was a crazy time.
It was great. It was a crazy good time, man. I had a blast.
You guys may not know this from just hearing his voice, but a lesson I learned is never try and keep up with Kelsey on the dance floor.
Yeah,
it's
not an easy task.
It's not an easy task, and you're gonna feel your age real fast.
Yes, I'm feeling that shit right now. But nothing else really going on. Same old. Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, Kels for Show. You can find me there, and it's yeah.
All right, cool. I, as always, want to thank Escape Velocity Comics for letting us record here. It is seriously one of the best things for recording a show. I don't know where we would record if we couldn't do it here. We'd have to go build our own thing. But they're very nice. They usually have a more open mind for letting us record here. As always, our ideas, our opinions are not theirs. No way in shape, form. they're not us, is what I'm trying to say. We ain't them, they ain't us. They don't hate us because they ain't us. They appreciate us from a distance, and we appreciate them.
True that.
As always, there is a book of the week for Escape Velocity Comics. Come in and ask your local employee about signing up for that book. This one is Legion of Superheroes Millennium #1. Brought to you by some of the greatest talents. This epic story spans the course of 1,000 years, and for the very first time connects all of DC's future timelines. That's kind of crazy. Starring the unlikeliest of DC heroes as she learns to cope with newfound immortality and roams through the disparate societies of Batman Beyond, Kamandi, and Tommy Tomorrow, wrestling with her own inner demons and desperately trying to find her purpose in an ever-changing world. Do not miss out on this truly unique take on DC's Tomorrow universe, all leading up to a special launch on the Millennium. Thank you again, Escape Velocity Comics. Gio, you had some plugs for us.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank Clayton for his wonderful insight.
We already
wish we
plugged
could've
him.
Talked a little bit more about climate change.
Maybe we'll come back to it when the world's burning.
Ain't gonna stop. So
Oh gosh.
What's
But anyway,
that stupid meme? Maybe it's time to ask Billy Joel if his generation did start the fire.
Had a great
Harlem?
evening tonight.
Yes.
You know, I know that we're all about escaping, and we try to keep things light and talk about comic books, but these are things that we cannot escape. This is our reality. This is the reality that we're living in today, and this is something that needs to change and something that we need to do. And just start a conversation. Just get talking about it.
Yeah.
Spread the word. I know a lot of you did not know any of the information that was given on this podcast today. I know it was a lot to take in, but we appreciate you guys for sticking through, and thank you guys again. Also, I'd like to plug in the Terrarium Shop. So if you have not heard about them,
We talked about them last episode a little bit, yeah.
yeah, we did. So they're actually still doing their month-long promotion on their glass
Great
vinyl
stuff
necklaces, which they will be donating 100% of their proceeds to the Amazon Conservation Team, an organization dedicated to protecting the biodiversity, culture, and health of the ecosystem, the flora, the fauna, and its people. So please check them out. You can find them online at the terrariumshop.com. That's TERRORIUM, or on Facebook, Instagram, and more. Just Google them. They strive to practice ethical and legal foraging to bring you amazing creations, and all of their products are locally sourced. They even offer classes on how to make these beautiful creations, so be sure to check them out and contribute to an awesome cause. The other thing too is obviously everyone's heard about Hurricane Dorian and how much it's affected the people in the Bahamas and the people on the east coast of the U.S. And I'm not saying fucking thoughts and prayers out here, man. We got to do shit about it. So volunteer if you can, donate if you can. Just watch out for your brothers and sisters, and just be nice, man. Be kind. It's chaos. Be kind.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Next week, we will be covering anime and manga. That's going to be a wild fucking episode. This one was a little more on the serious side. That next week is going to be crazy, spiky hair, energy blast kind of
We got to give it to your heart before we soften it up a little.
That's right.
Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Escaping Podcast. And really freaking good news, we're now on Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes. So take your pick, and don't forget.
Oh shit, we on iTunes?
We're trying to, they haven't told me if we're accepted or not, but it's been about a week, and I'm guessing we're not too vulgar for them.
All right, well, we will be there soon. But we are on Spotify, Google Play, and just
SoundCloud.
make sure you tell all. Yeah, exactly, and SoundCloud. Just tell all your friends and tell them to tune in.
It's going to be really good. Also, if you or anyone else you know would like to have your music featured on the show, go ahead and shoot us an email at
Or you just know
escaping.podcast.
things, and you like to talk about the shit that we talk about.
I'm talking about the music, the thing that matters, the thing that beats in our heart every day.
Makes the
If you
people
can't move
Absolutely.
to the
We
music
do
that
come
want
together.
you babies, local artists.
Yeah.
So go ahead and shoot us an email at
Great
escaping.podcast@gmail.com, and we will get you on the list. Tonight we are leaving you with Painter's Picture by Had I Known. They are a local band here in the Springs. They're really good. Brian Easton is the frontman, I believe. And they've got a local show coming up Friday the 20th at the Black Sheep. Go and check them out. They're seriously so good, guys. All right, we will see you next time. Remember, there can only be one chum bucket.
Be the best fan you can be by being an escapee. And now that you know, no one is half the battle. Stay uncanny, y'all.
Thank you, Escapees. You guys have a great day or night or wherever you're at. Stay beautiful. I'm Gio.
I'm Daniel.
And I'm Kels.
We'll see you next time.
metal. It beats the same when you play the game just to see it fall. Could this fact of solitude be letting all the rain fall down on you? It's a long road now to home. Don't blame me without you. Untrained eye sees, oh, nothing is clouded. An erased object, attempting to subject